Previously on Miss President.
Jacqueline Waweru, Gertrude Kurgat. We are sorry to say that at this point of the competition, we will have to let you go. But this far you have come and we are very proud of you. It is sad that 2 young members are leaving the house, but it is also exciting that the 2 of you have stayed this long in the house. And so we would like to encourage you to continue doing what you're doing, but now take it to another level. We will be here to support you. Thank you so much. Congratulations to the 10 of you. I'd like to announce that you are all on probation. And for that reason, from today, no more groups. It's an individual battle to the end. Each person has to fight their own race. You're either running to the top or walking to the top. I hope that the best person wins.
And now, a quick look at the contestants still in the academy. The coalitions have been disbanded and the contestants are competing at an individual level. Now, let's meet our esteemed judges for this episode.
I'm Dr. Zipporah Okoth. I'm a lecturer of film and theatre arts at Kenyatta University. I'm also the founder of the Lake International Pan-African Film Festival. I'm a gender consultant and a performing artist. I'm looking for people who are informed, presentable, firm, and have a purpose.
Hi, I'm Jerry Kirene. I work in the policy environment, helping various small groups lobby for better laws for business. I'm a tough judge. I'm no nonsense. The minute you come before me, you better know your stuff. If you don't, well, you can only expect a challenge.
My name is Gerald Mangari Atunga, an employee of the government of Kenya, currently at the National Counterterrorism Center, where I am head of communications, media, and aviation security.
What? What? The entire lot on probation? I see how my judges are on a muchezo. 2 contestants went home last week and this sent panic all around. No one is guaranteed to make it to the top. In fact, Judge Zipe Nasema, the competition is over. The race ndo imeanza. And I will never stop asking this question. Is Kenya ready for a female president? Huh? Tonight's show kicks off with 10 candidates, and with one major difference. The parties have been disbanded, and every contestant is competing as an individual moving forward. You see what happens when you get the judges angry? Our check in Amutumaze. So tonight, who will stay? And who's going home? In the next series of episodes, the tasks get more complex and a lot of thought and consideration must be given before the elimination. Each episode is filmed over a span of 2 days. Day 1 focuses on training and a possible site visit. Day 2, presentations, nominations, eliminations. Over 1,000 applications were received from all over Kenya, and from these, 70 contestants were shortlisted. After a series of auditions, 40 women were selected and they are battling it out at the academy, where they are going through a process of training, tasks, challenges, problem-solving activities, presentations and eliminations to eventually be elected Miss President. Together, let us follow each stage of this competition and watch these very capable women try to convince the judges and you at home, myself included, why they should make it to the next stage of the competition. Here are the counties that are represented by the remaining contestants. The gears have shifted, the terrain is getting tougher, and you can feel the tension, the nerves. lakini pia the quick comebacks, wit and resilience of each one of our contestants as we continue on this path to leadership. What does our constitution say about national security? Our constitution of 2010 clearly states that the national security of Kenya shall be promoted and guaranteed in accordance with the following principles. Okay, what are these principles? Tuinge klasini and hear what Mwalimu has to teach us about national security. Also, hear what our contestants have to give in terms of their contributions and also see their presentations.
I am Simiyu Werunga. I work in the security sector. At the moment, I'm the director of the East African Institute of Security Studies. My area of specialization is public safety and security.
Greetings, Your Excellencies. Are you well? Yes, all smiles are still facing the aftermath, or recovering from the aftermath of the last episode. Yeah. At home, welcome. This is Miss President. Get your pens and papers out because we are in class now. The topic today, in as far as our training is concerned, is security. And that's important, not just at home or within your community, but also as a country. More specifically because our contestants are battling for the prize of Miss President. Let's give a round of applause as he comes in. Mr. Simiyu Werunga, karibu sana.
Thank you. We're going to discuss about national security. That has been domain of mine for many years. This is what the law says about our national security. It is the protection against internal and external threats to Kenya's territorial integrity, sovereignty, its people, their rights, freedoms, property, peace, stability, and prosperity, and other national interests. That one is in the Constitution. What are the principles?
So one is the national security is subject to the authority of this Constitution and Parliament.
Yes.
That the national security shall be pursued in compliance with the law and with the utmost respect of the rule of law, democracy, human rights, and fundamental freedoms.
One of the principles is respect for diverse culture of everyone in Kenya. And lastly, principle around reflection of diversity of the Kenyan people in equitable proportions.
Yes. So anything that we talk about on national security, anything that goes contrary to what the Constitution says about our national security is null and void. Number two, it shall be pursued in compliance with the law and with the utmost respect to the rule of law, democracy, human rights, and fundamental freedoms. So what are our rights?
Political rights is the right to vie, to belong in a political party. Socioeconomic rights are the right to better health care. In fact, it's not better quality health care, better housing.
Yes.
Then we have the fundamental rights. It's right to education, freedom from torture, freedom from deprivation of hunger.
Worship.
Yes.
You know, in this country, people like saying that's a national security issue. I'm one of those who likes talking about national security issue. But that one must be done within the principles of our national security issue. And these principles must guide anything that the president does under the guise of national security. So as a president, you must first understand that you cannot have anything in your country if your security is not secured. So what is our national security considerations? One, it is divided into many aspects. First, you must also look at human security. How are our people secured? You must look at our food security. How secure are we in food? We must look at our environmental security. How secure is our environment to ensure that we don't enter into issues of arid land, semi-arid land, that we don't make our country a desert because we are doing things that are contrary to how we need to secure our environment. You've taken care of your security, you've ensured that everything is working, you've looked at your elements, you've seen how to enforce them. But still, as a nation, we must also look at our threats. And one of the threats to national security is about how porous our borders are. Do we have the capacity to enforce our borders? Do we have the capacity to ensure that something untoward uses our borders to cross into the country and cause damage so that our national security is not upheld. How does corruption become a challenge to our national security?
I think corruption can happen anywhere, including in the intelligence services.
Yes.
So if there is corruption in the intelligence services, it means these people will not be very frank and honest even in delivering the information to the president.
One is the proceeds of corrupt practices can be used to finance and fund
and influence
acts of terrorism. And secondly, the whole aspect of unemployment, especially of youth, leave them vulnerable towards radicalization.
Corruption will make them buy substandard goods. Corruption will make promotions and deployment ineffective, because you don't have to be competent for you to be promoted because of corruption. So it has a major impact and is a challenge to our national security. Transnational organized crime. One, you'll bring in counterfeit goods. It has a major impact on production in the country. The factories will close, unemployment will rise, and the people will become agitated, they'll become anti-state, and therefore it becomes a security issue. But in totality, as a president, what are you supposed to know so that you are sure that as the leader of that country, everything has been taken care of? So within the national security, there are 5 or 6 elements that you must ensure that they are well established, they are functional, and you are sure that every time you have something you need to deal with, you have the capacity as the president to do that. So element number 1, you must ensure that your military is secure, is functional, and is ready to be deployed. So we call it military security. You must have a military that is functional, is operational, and is ready to be deployed at the shortest time possible to take over external threats. In Kenya, we have 3 organs. We have KDF, we have National Police Service, and we have National Intelligence Service. Those are 3 state organs that are given to the president through the Constitution to leverage his or her space in governing this country and dealing with security matters. Number 2, we call it political security. You must be in charge of the politics of the country. Whether you have an opposition, you have militias, you have Al-Shabaab, but you must ensure that you have the capacity as a country to take care of your politics, to drive the political space, and ensure that anything that derives out of politics that might impact on our national security, as a president, you must have the capacity to take care of that. Number 3, economic security. A country functions because of commerce and trade. A country functions because it has the people who have the capacity to produce so that you can engage into business, commerce, and trade. Number 4, environmental security. So we must be in charge of our environmental security. We must ensure that we can be able to manage what happens in our environment. And anything that touches on the environment that has the capacity to impact on our national security, you must have the capacity as the president to ensure that everything is taken care of. 5th one is human security. How do we ensure that our people are secure? They must be healthy, they must be sheltered, they must have the capacity to go to hospital. You must put there things that make them go to hospital and be treated, and therefore our Kenyan person is secured. So then the last one is cyber security. What resources do you have? So those are the elements that every time you talk about national security, you must be sure that all those things have the capacity to ensure that the country exists in safety and in security. And that, for today, marks the end of our discussion on national security.
So what I appreciated today was the fact that without security, we're not able to do anything. And the heavy load that presidency has to make sure there is security in Kenya. And I also realized it was like an awakening that it's not just about human security. It's about environmental security, natural resource security, and so many other aspects which I had never thought about.
What I would do differently
is actually go back to my community and participate actively on the Nyumba Kumi initiative, find experts of security and actually bring them to the different neighborhood association in my county, Kajiado, find out how Nyumba Kumi can actually be awakened to be more vibrant.
Over 1,000 applications were received from all over Kenya, and from these, 70 contestants were shortlisted. After a series of auditions, 40 women were selected and they are battling it out at the academy, where they are going through a process of training, tasks, challenges, problem-solving activities, presentations and eliminations to eventually be elected Miss President. Together, let us follow each stage of this competition and watch these very capable women try to convince the judges and you at home, myself included, why they should make it to the next stage of the competition. Here are the counties that are represented by the remaining contestants. A quick summary of today's training. National security is the protection against internal and external threats to Kenya's territorial integrity and sovereignty, its people, their rights, freedoms, property, peace, stability and prosperity, and other national interests. The national security of Kenya shall be promoted and guaranteed in accordance with principles provided for in the Constitution. And lastly, threats to national security include corruption, porous borders, and negative ethnicity.
Now, 4 questions as you exercise. Which of the threats appear to you as the greatest threat facing Kenya's national security? You've already identified the threats. Now I'm asking you, what measures should the country take to ensure that our national security is sustained? The country is facing an external threat on its sovereignty. Which element of national security should you, as the president, utilize to retain your nation's integrity? Those are the 3 questions that we expect you to work on them in a narrative form. In a narrative form. There are questions, but answer them as a narrative. Okay? So even as you start writing, we shall be looking at the question, how you've captured it, but you make it a narrative. So what are we looking at? It must flow. Okay? So it is not answering a question. 1, this is the answer. 2, no. Make it a narrative. Are we together? So what tumenda shule? So make it a narrative.
We have come to the end of day 1. Since the parties have been disbanded, there will be no more group assignments. Each one of the contestants will have to come up with their own presentations and response to the assignment given. Day 2, and here we are. Remember, each assignment will be judged as a work of an individual, and I am so looking forward to seeing the presentations. Our contestants are always ready to give us their best shot in the true spirit of leadership. We are now in the task presentations. We have a guest judge today. His name is Gerald Mwangare Atunga. He is the head of Media Communication, Aviation Security and Certification in the National Counterterrorism Center. Let's be upstanding. Karibu sana. Karibu sana. You may be seated. Today's assignment is as follows. Which of the threat appears to you as the greatest one facing Kenya's national security? What measures should the country take to ensure our national security is sustained? And lastly, the country is facing an external threat on its sovereignty. Which element or national security should you as a president utilize to retain your nation's integrity? Presentations will be 10 minutes. Do you want to decide who to start, or can I do that for you? And once the person starts, the next person follows. Yeah? Nerea?
I want to discuss corruption as a threat to national security. Corruption is more prevalent in finance and procurement. So these administrative support functions is where we find issues of corruption and trade, because that's where the money is. Everybody needs support functions in every institution. One of the things I want to propose is to re-engineer policy and institutional and legal frameworks. One of the things that has happened in Kenya is the audit of military spending. That's a good thing. I want to integrate EACC into our public participation forums, because I want us to stop celebrating the culture of corruption. So once this money has been recovered, I would like to use that money to do mentorship, to do training, and those people who actually want to have jobs can actually be trained on how to be better public servants.
Corruption, negative ethnicity, and porous borders are our greatest threats facing Kenya's national security, in my view. Corruption and negative ethnicity have led to unfairness in employment, deployment, and posting of human resources in the economic sector, the military, ministries, and political sector. As the president, in corruption and negative ethnicity, I will marshal our economic powers to facilitate cooperation. On the porous borders, I will maintain effective defense that are ready and functional. I will encourage exportation and come up with policies that will help my country to export some of the goods that we produce in our country. Thank you so much.
My government has declared corruption and national security as it erodes the legitimacy of the justice system. It diverts public resources for private use. Today, my government is launching a public digitized policing platform that is citizen-friendly, where the public can freely interact with the government. I call upon the justice institution to ensure heavy punishment of all guilty, corrupt officers. Finally, to strengthen public safety, I, as your president, champion and support and call upon the national, county governments and all Kenyans to team up and increase efforts and resources towards active enhancing security at the village and neighborhood level by cooperating through the Nyumba Kumi initiative. Thank you for your cooperation, and God bless Kenya.
Terrorism is a national security issue because in any act of terrorism, lives, both military and civilian, is lost. Many get injured. Property gets destroyed. There is disruption in communication and disruption in movement of people, goods, and services. First and foremost, my government will improve border control and security. And this will be done by using of technology of drones to ensure aerial surveillance of our borders. My government will also tighten the rules around virtual currency platforms, including our very own innovation, M-Pesa. We will strengthen systems to make them transparent and automated and remove all possibilities of human and cash interactions. The systems, once strengthened, will make it easier to detect, report, and prosecute all acts of corruption. Thank you.
During the 1982, we faced the Garis-Guai massacre, which led to a lot of people dying. And up to today, that information is not declassified, 30 years after. So the following are strategies that I'm adopting as president. Implement constitution values such as principles of national justice, human rights, and supporting independent institutions like IPOA and the judiciary. To invest in youth empowerment programs, such as promoting entrepreneurship by availing incentives. Implement community policing initiatives, the Nyumba Kumi initiative. Do you know your neighbor? This will also ensure and strengthen civilian intelligence, because when I know who is my neighbor and when I ensure that I report suspicious activities, then we can counter radical groups and terror.
The two greatest threats to our national security are, number one, negative ethnicity. Terrorism is the second major threat in our country. from the times of the Norfolk Tower bombing, the Kikambala incident, the US Embassy, and the latest one, the Dusit incident. My government will ensure that not only do we prosecute any leaders or citizens that are found to be culpable, we will also ensure that their deliberate economic empowerment conditions to marginalized groups. When it comes to terrorism, my government will increase and step up intelligence gathering. The second thing that I will do is to strengthen the Nyumba Kumi initiative, ensuring implementation across the country. Thank you, and God bless Kenya.
Environmental issues are threatening the global nation, our country, and I felt that I needed to address issues on environmental justice. We now recognize the vital role played by the youth in the environmental management and sustainable utilization of natural resources. I call on to you youths to initiate awareness, share ideas with family and community members on how to protect the environment. Use the power of your collective voice to advocate, lobby, lead campaigns towards adopting environmental friendly practices and policies. Mobilize your peers on social media or other online interactions to discuss, debates, and advocate for better environmental protection.
One of the greatest threats facing Kenya's security is negative ethnicity. In 2014 and 2015, Nyeri County has lost 32 men, most of them being youths, to terror attacks in Mandera County as they worked in quarry mines. As a measure to address this threat, I have revived the Nyumba Kumi initiative, focusing on better structured information and sharing feedback mechanisms, with the members trained on detection and management of violent extremism at a local level, while at the same time providing ward-level forums for sharing accurate and factual narratives on violent extremism. A talent bank program is very, very important to help our youth transition through our system of education to our labor market. I will end with this quote from Russia's President Vladimir Putin. Terrorism has no nationality or religion.
Two of the greatest security threats facing Kenya today is corruption and negative ethnicity. Corruption has grown deep roots, and particularly in our leadership. Today, I have taken radical measures in my government to ensure that we counter these two vices in our country. One, I have today launched a hotline toll number 111 for public use, and which is free and can access and is linked to our local facilities managed by national government administrative officers that have been posted to every devolved function. This hotline number can be used by anybody. So ukiona askari anachukua hongo, just text us 111 and the response time is 24 hours. For the government to avert negative ethnicity, peace building initiatives and through religious groups and non-state actors, and rapid response teams must be immediately operationalized. I am saying that national government administrative officials, together with the county governments, must be able to operationalize this as provided for in the County Government Act.
Marsabit County is affected by two major issues that are security threats to our national government. One is negative ethnicity. Two is porous border between Ethiopia and Kenya. I therefore, as the chief commander, instruct the security agencies to refine community policing, because that is the only way you will be able to gather information on the conflict dynamics. I'm also instructing that we use the youth, the warriors, as KPR, National Police Reserves, so that they move away from cattle rustling to now be involved in resolving issues. And in terms of a porous border, I'm instructing our military to move down on the ground and seal out our borders. Not necessarily putting up a fence, but ensuring that we have modernized our military forces by ensuring they have equipment such as night visions, goggles, and also use drones instead of men to be able to detect the people who are coming in through the border to cause the ethnic clashes. God bless you all.
Nomination, of course, starts, so you know what the drill is about. Nominate one person, okay?
As a person, I was really disappointed by her presentation today. She simply just copied what the content of yesterday's class was.
She needs to grow more in organizing her thoughts.
She didn't focus on the subject matter.
I found her to be a bit relaxed.
She didn't have as much energy as the rest of the contestants had.
Over 1,000 applications were received from all over Kenya, and from these, 70 contestants were shortlisted. After a series of auditions, 40 women were selected, and they are battling it out at the academy, where they are going through a process of training, tasks, challenges, problem-solving activities, presentations, and eliminations to eventually be elected Miss President. Together, let us follow each stage of this competition and watch these very capable women try to convince the judges, and you at home, myself included, why they should make it to the next stage of the competition. Here are the counties that are represented by the remaining contestants. Welcome back. It's about that time when we get to the elimination section. Of course, before that, we speak to the judges, including our guest judge, Bwana Gerard. It's karibu sana. Good to see you. Daktari Zipi and Judge Njeri. Good to see you. Guest Judge Gerard, what do you think of their presentation? What do you think of their clarity on the topic or the subject?
This being the first time they're coming out individually, they're yet to have a grasp of, either the subject matter as individuals or how to articulate issues to do with security. And not just security, but national security can be very tricky. There's a lot of experience, first of all, followed by trying to make connections, in that sphere with the global concerns.
Makes sense.
So don't expect too much of them as yet.
There were mixed feelings in as far as moving from group dynamics to now individuality. And a lot of them say that for them, they are happy that a lot of their leadership qualities were hidden in the group dynamics. But it kind of played out differently today.
Yes, the group dynamics worked well.
Yes.
But right now, as individuals, people have to up their game. There's no more giving away ideas like, oh, it was so-and-so's idea. I gave this point, but they did not present it. Now it is you alone on the race. However, I feel some people are on a walking race, while we want people to be on a what? On a running race.
Yes.
Yes.
You feel the same also?
As the president, you also have to choose who your security men will be. You must immerse yourself in issues, which is what I felt they have not shown us. So they must really immerse themselves in what are the security concerns.
Right.
So as we're heading towards the top one, we're expecting them to really up their game.
Yeah, makes sense.
Paradoxically, however, there is nothing that is not connected to security.
True.
So you really have to be all round, because even that which you don't expect to be related to security might just turn around to be a serious national security issue.
Well spoken, okay.
Yeah,
so how many are going?
It's a top security issue.
We'll be right back. Stay with us. We have come to that moment that will decide the fate of someone tonight. Who will stay? Who will be put on probation?
Hello, ladies. We are excited to be meeting the top 10 of the first edition of the Miss President show in Kenya. Your exercise today was easy and hard. in that it was the first time people were doing exercises in their own individual capacities. As a president, we have to see you in your full capacity. Let me introduce my judges on the bench. On my left is Judge Njeri. On my right is Judge Gerald. If I call your name, occupy the seats in front. Pantoren Elizabeth, Lucy Daisy Mwangi, Mulher Arun, and Shamala Immaculate. I will hand over to Judge Njeri to start.
Shamala Immaculate, please stand. So in summary, tell me what you learned from today's lesson.
In today's lesson, there's something I learned. That we need to connect issues in order to have better results. For example, the task that I had was I saw environment as a national threat in terms of security.
What amongst the three things I'm going to ask you right now is actually a threat? Is it the climate that is a threat? Is it the lack of sustainable livelihoods that is a threat? Or is it the outcome that is the threat?
I come from a county where we have a lot of, we are the basket of food basket of maize. So if there's poor or low rainfall, that means we will have a problem with food. So there'll be food insecurity and people will not be able to be fed.
Okay. Do you see the need for clarity in your thought process?
Yes, I do.
So Lucy Daisy, what do you believe the role of the president is in national security matters?
The role of the president is to ensure that everyone in the country is secure, be it food security, be it economic security, be it the military security, all the elements of the national security.
Okay. So I'll put it to you this way. The role of the president in national security matters is to ensure domestic tranquility. Have a seat.
Harun Mohammed, having listened to you, there are some incidents that have happened in the past that are not very good incidents, and some of these incidents have on occasions caused a lot of tensions amongst communities. What do you think would be the best remedy to deal with certain incidents which are best left to history?
The first step for me would be declassifying that information, because when I came to know that why my people have been affected in 1, 2, 3 areas, I went to Kenya Archives and I could not find that document. And I looked through the database and I asked the man who was there, where is this information? I want to know about the Shifta War. I want to know about the Garis Gowai, but it's not there. So I think the best way to just forget about that injustice is to, first of all, extend a hand of peace and show them that we are one. Declassification would be the first step. After that, not necessarily just compensating them, but making them feel like they're not second-class citizens.
Dr. Elizabeth Pantoren, I listened to your presentation and what you would do. As a president, do you seriously think that the place of the young of our society are to be used in security, infrastructure, or would they rather be elsewhere? And when you talk of youth, what kind of age bracket are you looking at?
Okay, in pastoral communities, we have young men who have not been able to access education. And these young men have only one way of thinking of, building their economies. They have been trained culturally to raid on people's livestock to be able to build their economies. So for us to be able to change that mindset, that they need to now diversify into other avenues of making income, we can easily then start up with using them, turning them from being bandits to people who can easily assist the national security systems with information, because they are aware of the terrain of the area, they are aware of the nature of the dynamics of the conflict. For the beginning, we can easily then be able to use their knowledge, their skills, to avert such conflicts. That is a group of warriors between 12 to 15. those that have not gone to school. There are also those who have gone to school, but they can easily be identified and then be put into other programs like NYS, like AMI, and be able to be productive in the society.
Thank you, Dr. Elizabeth. Thank you, Judge Zippy.
Before I proceed to the next elimination process, let me invite our guest judge, Gerald, who's a specialist in security, to maybe give you a word or two. Yes.
Thank you very much, Judge Zippy. Security is the foundation of stability anywhere in the world. It's not a uniquely African, Kenyan, scenario, but everything else is built around security. So a threat is a statement of intention to inflict pain, injury, damage, or other hostile action on someone in retribution for something done or not done, commission or omission. But it is a statement. Most times it will emanate from a human being through spoken, written, or action. Thank you very much, Judge Zippy.
Shamala, you came out ready to redeem yourself from your morning presentation. So I'll just say, continuously personalize the issues and apply them nationally. At least it is good that you now understand how you can look at the threat and not to look at an issue as a threat. Lucy Daisy, avoid cramming. When you were asked questions on the role of the president in terms of national security, it sounded so book-like. We didn't feel a touch of Lucy, you get it? We're talking about threats having a human touch. Now threaten us with your intelligence. Let us feel your passion. Let us feel your free flow of thought when you speak, when you say things. And this also came up in your presentation. It felt like you had taken everything that you were taught yesterday and compiled it into something beautiful, and that's why it was all over the place. And that also felt the same today when you asked about the role of the president, Commander-in-Chief. Everybody knows that. But according to you, in few words, what could you tell us? Harun Mohammed, you are dealing with something that existed, 3 decades before you were born. It was in 1982. At this stage of your life, you have the Kesho Alliance Project. You are there to help create solutions for your community. Why are you focusing more on the challenges instead of more on the solutions? Pantoren, in the morning you talked about having the warriors to work as police reserves, yeah? Right now, you've talked about the warriors being the age of 12 to 15 and others being past the age of 18. The solution should be to take them back to school so that they are very engaged in finding solutions that can work for their community, not making them police reserves. So I found that you got out of touch with our constitution. It is not okay. Not with me, and I don't think not with everybody. Up it. Shamala Immaculate, Lucy Daisy Mwangi, Harun Mohammed, and Pantoren Elizabeth. If you never call today, your lucky day. I don't know how many you'll have throughout this year. We will allow you back into the house. However, you're all on probation. You can have your seats. With that, we can close the day. Thank you.
I was like, I am not done. Do you feel like, no, there is something, I am holding on to something? Then you're like, God, no, not today. So there is something that I was holding on, and I think my work is not yet done. Yeah. You can see from my face.
You've been shaking.
Anything can happen. But top 3 Nico. I'm not yet over. Bado, ndo tumeanza.
Hata kidogo, Your Excellency, you didn't think you're going to go home?
No, if they wouldn't give me the mic, I would. But if they give me the mic,
After a busy and highly charged day at the academy, it's time to take a breather. For some, probation calls for a meeting with self in order to assess or change strategies so as to remain in the competition.
No one went home today. What a relief for the contestants. Lakini, that does not mean that all can relax and take it easy. It all gets tougher now as the groups have been disbanded. It is everyone for herself. Join us next week as we tackle yet another interesting topic and task on the next episode of Miss President. For now, take a moment to reflect on the topic we have just tackled in today's show. Thoughts, opinions, compliments, suggestions, tweet us on media_focus, Facebook @MediaFocus on Africa, Instagram @MediaFocus on Africa. Share your thoughts. We want to hear from you. Everything is possible. Impossible just takes a little longer. Wendy Ackerman, co-founder and an executive director of Pick n Pay Stores.